I have misgivings about this, Frank, because of the timing, but for different reasons than some of the rest of you. I've had a number of citizens ask me whether City Council is out of our minds in continuing to pursue this review process. I believe that, among us, we've heard a lot of feedback that we understand pretty well what a lot of the concerns of some members of the police department are. If we probably could provide the manager with the guidance that he needs to go forward and address some issues. I don't think we're doing a service to the people of the community by continuing this process the way we are. The idea of a request for proposals, look at the timing on that. If we sit down tonight and start a request for proposal process, sometime in June, we'll be in a position to approve the RFP. Then it'll go out. Probably around August, we'd be in a position to consider proposals, and we'd be extremely lucky to get a result by October on that basis. That's not the way to go. If we can't expedite this, I wonder whether we should be doing it at all. I'll support this resolution, but it's with severe misgivings because I don't think we're going down the road that we should be following.
One further comment, and I want to be sure that everyone understands now in terms of the status, the parliamentary situation with the resolution. The original paragraph 5, which was to establish a temporary email account that allows input from other interested citizens. Emails will be considered only from those who provide their names and full addresses. The emails shall be monitored, reviewed, and assembled by affiliates of MTAS and submitted to MTAS. That is no longer part of the resolution. So just to be clear, we are removing the email account as it relates to the scope of work for MTAS. Are there any other comments? Ms. Garland?
Yes, please, sir. Once again, you can address the
Garland, 120 Hunter Drive. Who is going to review input from the public then? I really think that part of our investigation must be the complaints we've had from the citizens about policies and procedures within the department. And I personally believe that a lot of those complaints arise from the confusion that the department has been in for many years. So I'm very concerned that citizens have an opportunity. Some citizens think everything's fine, but there are plenty of others who are still coming to me, even though I can't do anything about it, saying, I've got this problem with the police, and I have that problem with the police, and why aren't the police doing this, and why are they doing that? The people pay for the police. The police and the fire department are the two primary needs for a safe and sane community. This is their right. A department they can have confidence in and who can have confidence in them.
Ms. Garland, if I could just respond briefly, as it relates to input from the citizens, certainly they can have their input here. This is removing that particular email account and those comments from the scope of work related to the consultants. Certainly, all of us receive numerous emails every day, as well as comments from citizens. And going forward, there's nothing that would preclude council from asking that an account particular email account be set up related to citizen input on this particular subject. It simply would not be within the scope of work for MTAS.
So that is my question to council. Who will be responsible for receiving and evaluating citizen input?
Ms. Smith, or Mr. Hensley?
I'm looking at the MTS letter here, and I'm a little confused about what they talk about. Mr. Thomas talks about number 4, which says, number 4 says establish a temporary email account that allows input. I'm looking at the letter dated April 30th from MTS.
Right. You need to go, that was in response to our initial resolution. If you will go to the last communication from MTAS dated May the 19th, number 3.
May 19th.
Page 12.
And again, it references.
Okay, I got you.
Okay.
Establish, we again discussed the city council proposed email account to be established for interested persons. I agree with MTA's position that these persons already have the most appropriate form. Okay, I'm caught up. Thank you.
Ms. Smith?
Yeah, my comment has been made, thanks.
All right. Ms. Vaughn?
Do we have a limitation on what, on the amount that we can pay for services to an external body without bidding it out?
No. If you look,
Mr. Krasinski, Mr. Watson.
the section, ordinance 5406 says the mayor talks about when a written contract is required. We discussed this before. The mayor, after authorization by the city council, if the contract is more than $25,000, provided, however, the city council, at its discretion, may contract for such services by the adoption of a written resolution defining the services to be rendered. No competitive bidding shall be required for such services. That includes consultation services.
So there is not a financial limit, so we could, in essence.
It's up to the 7 council members, 4 votes to contract. It has to be in writing, and under that ordinance, no competitive bidding is required. I've got a copy of the ordinance. This was passed back in May of '07.
Okay, so I'm gonna get a little, project a little bit. So this contract that we're about to, I hope we're not going to, but it looks like we're gonna engage in this contract. If we go forward with this, and MTAS comes back and says, it's actually, we put in a lot more hours to meet what you've asked for, and it's gonna cost $30,000. Does that come back to council?
I believe that we're at $22,700 not to exceed.
Not to exceed.
Right.
So if they want to exceed that, it'll have to come before council.
Come back here.
Okay, and then feasibly, we could spend millions of dollars if, without any, we don't, I'm just saying, the way that it's written, this council could spend millions of dollars and we don't have to bid it out.
The way the ordinance reads and the way that it was approved by council back in 2007, yes.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Krasinski, what number did you reference?
Ordinance 5-4.
No, what number did you reference in terms of the impasse?
Oh, it was $26,200. I believe Mr. Chin took away $3,500. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
It comes out to $22,700 with the $3,500 minus.
Okay.
So the professional services agreement will read in an amount of not to exceed $22,700. Unless I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
And that is assuming that the personnel director
Correct.
assists, because that's where that
Right.
$3,500
It's
is.
all
correct.
keyed into the savings that
Yes,
when
that's right. That's been,
Mr.
that's,
Chin
yes,
is a subtraction.
that's correct. All right.
So we're all in agreement on that number, not to exceed 22,700.
Okay.
Just so everyone's clear, the words "not to exceed" are not in the resolution.
The amount is 22,700, it was 26,200 minus 3,500, so that was the amount.
I'm just saying, the words "not to exceed" are not in the
No,
resolution.
No, they're not. But I would draft a professional services agreement the same way we drafted the other one, which said not to exceed. I mean, we're just taking the one that we had before, changing the scope of work, and taking out the part about no money will be required, and we're adding a financial number in there of 22,700. Unless I'm wrong now, I don't want to be, I want to be corrected if I'm misinterpreting what city council is wanting to do.
I think you're correct in that assumption as it relates to the dollar amount.
Right.
Ms. Mansfield?
Yes. Thank you. I would like to ask this question. Will MTAS charge in real time? Because they have allowed at 1 hour per interview, but some interviews will not happen. Some will be 10 minutes, and some might be an hour and a half. So
Real time, Ms. Mansfield.
real time?
Real time, yes,
And I'd
ma'am.
like to also ask about his comment on the initial contract said not to exceed, because the initial contract had no dollar amount, it was free. So he's saying we're going to carry forward from the old contract to the new contract, the words not to exceed, but why was it in the first contract if it was
No,
free?
the first contract was zero, there wasn't an amount to
So it said
exceed.
not to exceed zero? She's asking
No.
you if you have not to exceed in it, and
No, this second, the first contract's expired, it no longer exists.
but you just
No.
referenced it in your answer to her.
No, I said that, that was an example of what the next professional services agreement is going to look like with the changes that you've just made. You all have the first one that expired already. There'll only be the changes that you voted on, the scope of work, the amount of money, and the fact that it expires in October
The
of,
language will be in the professional services agreement pursuant, assuming that we go forward, an amount not to exceed $22,700.
Okay. Also, another question back about the issue concerning the random pool. I was just curious if any council member asked MTAS to insist on a random pool sampling, or are they insisting on putting that in the contract?
As far as I know, Ms. Mansfield, no member of council has asked them to do the random selection. That's been part of their proposed scope of work from day one as it relates to their discussions.
I'd like to add, that was in MTAS's proposal as their professional opinion on the best way to conduct this kind of study. So that was what they proposed to us.
Joseph Lee, 99 East Pasadena Road. I would like to ask that if MTAS can determine who Bobby Hill is, could they please include that in the report?
All right, we will go to the board vote if there's no other discussion. We are on item A. Let's go to the board. As amended. The resolution is approved, 4 ayes, 3 nays. Ms. Smith, as it relates to, you concur that item B is off,
Yes, we've taken care of it.
and I withdraw item C. There being no further business.
I have a comment or question.
Yes.
I'd like to understand now, what do we expect? Does MTS now have to agree to this new,
Yes, ma'am.
and so they could very well reject it?
If they reject it, they'll let us know very quick.
I would request, if you're going to continue to have communications and be the primary point of contact, that council be appraised within, a more reasonable time in terms of what's being discussed, if anything. I mean, maybe there's nothing else to discuss, but it just felt like we were in the dark for a little longer than I was comfortable with in terms of what was going on with MTS. So perhaps if you have communications with them, we could have more timely updates.
Be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Comment,
Mr. Henson?
am I allowed to make it?
Yes.
Give you some good news?
Well, it's not on the agenda, so,
I'd like to just make a real quick announcement. The land bank,
the special call, the special, can't do it, Charlie. Can't do it. We're adjourned, you can tell us.
we're going to offer on the house in the land bank at the asking price.
That is good.
After 3 days on the market.
Thank you all.
Hopefully forward motion. Yeah, that's right. That's gonna help you. You're the reason that
35. Designate the director of the personnel department as the point of contact for MTS.
Thank you very much.
And all interviews are
I love it.
please.
Yeah, you just provide the information and move on. Yeah, that's all you can do. That's all you can do. Yeah, I think you're gonna have your work cut out for you.
Shall be scheduled.
Hopefully it's forward motion is good. Yeah. Take care.
I'ma tell you, when I can get together with a bunch of hardcore black people, agree on stuff, I feel so proud to be a part of it.
Tigress.
What's that, Tigress?
Yeah, Tigress, I agree.